Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Thank you for joining me for folks' favorite Fandom Friday. Now, every Friday, I get the chance to visit with somebody from the wider world of the Tolkien fandom. Writers, musicians, artists, scholars, craftsmen, content creators, and more. And today, I'm pleased to introduce you to a wonderful content creator over on Instagram and TikTok. She's the force behind Tolkien Tuesdays. I promise I didn't know it was called that when I started mine. And the self-proclaimed CEO of Team Faramir, though as the founder of Team Faramir, you'd think I'd have been notified of that appointment to the board. She is also on an opposing team in an upcoming Tolkien trivia event, but I won't hold that against her. Folks, please join me in welcoming Miranda to today's Tolkien Times.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, before I met you, which was back down at Mysterious Galaxy when I did a book signing in January, I'd come across a couple of your videos on TikTok. I know you're Instagram native, but they make their way over to TikTok. Tolkien Tuesdays are these fun, rapid-fire, fan-friendly videos explaining all sorts of Middle-earth lore in a 90-second window. Tell me a bit more about them. What inspired you to do them? How many of you created? And I just want to know, what's been the most unexpected result of making them?
Yeah, I actually started my account as a way to post book reviews because I was in a period of reading a lot of fantasy books at the time.
Okay.
And then I sort of realized I had all of this Lord of the Rings passion floating around in my head. And I thought, I should do something with this.
Yes.
And so just kind of for fun, just a silly little thing, the first video I made was about Faramir. And it was just like kind of a goofy thing where I was just like, no one will probably see this. Like, I'm just going to talk about the difference between Faramir in the books and Faramir in the movies.
Always a fun topic.
Yeah, of course. And so I just made that for fun and wrote something up and recorded it and just sort of put it out there. And I think because I posted it pretty close to September 22nd,
Oh,
when
yeah,
everyone
Hobbit Day
is, online about Hobbit Day, I think it got some traction, surprisingly. And so I got positive feedback from it. So I was like, oh, maybe I should make
Yeah.
another one. Maybe I should try to make more. So I just kept going and I started off picking sort of highly debated topics where it was like, why didn't they take the Eagles to Mordor? Or like, where was Gondor when the Westfold fell?
How many wings does a Balrog have?
Exactly. And then as I went on and started actually getting feedback from the community, it almost evolved into I want to provide information about events or people or concepts that the sort of everyday fan might not know too much about, and I
Okay.
want to present it in as concise and like accessible a way as
Yeah.
I can. And like you said, because I work within um, Instagram's Reels video editing,
Mhm.
I'm constrained to only 90 seconds at a time. So it's always a challenge of sort of how do I pick the most important details
Yeah.
of this summary of whatever topic I chose that week and put it into 90 seconds worth of time to get people to understand something they might not have known about before.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what has become, which I've been loving just because I've been getting feedback from people who have that sort of I didn't know that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like I had no idea. Thank you for letting me know. So it's been fun.
That's cool.
As for how many I've made I think 72 now.
Wow.
I've done it every single Tuesday since September of 2022.
Okay. My
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah, going to be coming up on a year and a half here pretty soon. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun.
So what is the
Um,
most unexpected result of doing this?
um, honestly, probably just the community. Like I didn't realize how vast the need was for community for
Yeah.
Tolkien fans on social media platforms like Instagram, and that's where most of my community has been built is on Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, to just see so many people saying like how excited they are to have found people who also have the same passions that they do,
Yeah.
or to come and say, oh, I'm so glad I found these videos because you introduced me to these other creators, and then I've been able to meet amazing creators. and we've been able to sort of grow this like beautiful community.
Yeah.
And then also to have people who have come out and told me like, oh, these things that you've said in these 90-second videos inspired me to read the books. Like I had only
Good.
watched the movies and now I want to read the books. Or it's been 10 years since I read the books and now I want to read them again.
Man, that's
Or
huge.
I've read the trilogy and I'm finally going to try to read the Silmarillion. And
Okay.
to get that sort of response is just like, oh my gosh, like I was doing this just for fun, just like a
Right.
silly little thing, and like this makes me want to just like keep doing it.
And I hear that. I really hear that because
Yeah.
I get that same sort of feedback, and it is the fuel that keeps it going because
Yeah.
knowing that you can be an inspiration for people to get back into the books or, again, I say the books, but it's not as though how you get into the fandom is how you get into the fandom,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So somebody who starts out with the Jackson films or Rings of Power, whatever, get to the books and read them and enjoy them. And if you enjoy the films some more, great, go do that. But yeah, that is certainly encouragement when you have people coming to you and saying, you helped me get back into
Yeah.
the books. Yeah.
It's been so surprising, and I'm just so thankful for it. Like it's amazing to feel.
Yeah.
And I came into the fandom through the films too,
Yeah.
so I've been there.
Yeah. Well, I think the further we get in time, right? The further away we get from 1955 and 1956 and The Lord of the Rings were published originally, the more people will come to the fandom through adaptations. That's just the nature of adaptations in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. Well, you mentioned the books, and that brings me to my next question. You've created, well, you also mentioned community. You've created this really wonderful Discord community where you host read-alongs and you have discussions about the text. That's a pretty big step for making those 90-second videos. So how did that come about, and what have you discovered about the Tolkien fandom and community through this process?
Yeah, so the Discord itself is actually still relatively new.
Mhm.
The first read along I ever did, I didn't have the Discord set up, and we did a book chat on
Oh,
Instagram
wow.
in
Okay.
like direct messaging. Like
Yeah, yeah.
there was a group message on Instagram, which was a little chaotic, but
Yeah.
it got the job done. Um, and the way that came about is I had finally, a bit before that, read the Silmarillion myself
Mm.
and went through what I'm sure a lot of Tolkien fans have, which
Yes.
is sort of having that fear of reading the Silmarillion and then finally doing it and
Yeah.
realizing how much amazing like depth there is to it, and
Yeah.
such amazing characters and history and events and like these stories that are incredible that are almost like there's a blockade of fear in front of them.
Yeah.
And so once I had gotten through the Silmarillion and I had chatted with, various people on Instagram and they had expressed to me how they were intimidated by the Silmarillion, I thought, you know what? I would love to make a way for other people to find the Silmarillion more approachable.
Yeah.
And I had also seen a few other creators do read alongs, and I thought it was an amazing concept.
Yeah.
So, what I did is I broke up the Silmarillion into chunks over, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks,
Mhm.
and put it on a schedule. And I said, hey, we're going to read this together. We're going to read this piece each week.
Yeah.
And then every single Sunday, I will record a video summarizing what we read that week,
Okay.
and doing my sort of regular Tolkien Tuesday thing,
Yeah.
but in 90 seconds, summarizing that week's Silmarillion chapters.
In 90 seconds. That's hard enough to do with, Tolkien lore in general, but to take the Silmarillion and do
Yeah,
90-second chunks is
it
that's
was a lot of paraphrasing
yeah,
and a lot of condensing.
that is a craft. I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
it doesn't necessarily do the detail of the Silmarillion
No,
justice, but it
that's
gets
fair.
the point across.
Yeah.
So I would do that as like a summary, and then we had that group chat on
Mhm.
Instagram for people to just chime in with what they thought or
Okay.
their opinions on the chapter, um, and it worked surprisingly well. But within that chat, there were some very vocal comments about, "Hey, have you thought about Discord?
Mm.
Like, if you made a
Yeah.
Discord, this would be easier. It would be easier to organize the chat. It would be easier to find different points in a chat." So I thought,
Sure.
well, like so much of my platform is on Instagram, and there are a lot of people on here who don't have Discord, who have never used Discord. So it was kind of like I wasn't sure what to do.
Yeah.
Um, but I did ultimately decide to make a Discord server,
Mhm.
and we did another read along. like 6 to 8 months later,
Okay.
of The Unfinished Tales,
Oh.
which I hadn't read yet. So that
Okay.
was a first time read for me, along with all of our read along participants. And I made a Discord for that. And I kept the group chat on Instagram just in case someone wanted that.
Sure.
But we moved most of the chat to Discord. And that became a place for people to come and create even more of a community.
Yeah.
And we had chats about each chapter, and it started growing memes about different stories and unfinished tales and inside jokes about, the swans and the story of Tuor. Um, and it was kind of, so that was another
Yeah.
surprising thing where I was like, this is, even though my Discord is still rather small compared to, I think, a lot of other Discords in the Tolkien community, it's almost like a little like family unit where we can
Yes.
go there and chat, and
Hmm.
people are asking what's next on the read-alongs,
Yeah.
um, and so it's been like really fun for me to get to experience reading it with other people now.
It really is wonderful as a community experience.
Yeah.
I've certainly have discovered that same thing also through our Discord, which is it's only limited to our patrons. So the
Mm.
15,000 people that listen to the Prancing Pony podcast each week don't get to take part of that community, but there's about 300-400 people that do, and it's really fantastic. Like you said, it's a very family feeling, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
connection and a lot of community around the books. I love that. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, now that you've had a taste of that, you've still been doing the Instagram thing for a year and a half, you're doing the Discord. What do you want the future of your projects to be like? Where do you see Tolkien Tuesdays going, or maybe what other sort of project do you see it leading you to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely, I'm planning on keeping Tolkien Tuesday exactly the same as it is.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the format that I've been doing it in, and I just want to keep doing that. So,
Mhm.
um, my plan is definitely to keep Tolkien Tuesday the same,
Good.
and to hopefully do more read-alongs. But I have thought about the possibilities of trying to do longer form videos,
Okay.
longer than 90 seconds. Um, and maybe doing something on YouTube, or
Mhm.
I've thought about the possibility of starting a podcast.
Okay.
Because one of my best friends, I introduced her to the films. She had never seen them, and she's seen them exactly one time and knows nothing else about the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, that could be
And
fun.
we had an idea of doing a podcast together,
Yeah.
where she sort of comes in as a newbie to
Yeah.
the world, and it can ask me whatever question she wants, no matter how ridiculous, and I can try to explain that. So that's a concept that I think would be really
Yeah.
fun,
That
but
would be.
that's another step to sort of figure out. But that would be something, hopefully that can happen.
I hope so.
um, and then really, I've just been trying to soak in as much sort of community growth that I can. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned before, we're going to be doing some trivia with other members of the Tolkien community, which I'm
Yep.
intimidated
I was
by,
going to
but
say
also,
terrified is the word that comes to mind. Yeah.
yes, a little bit terrified, but
Yeah.
also just excited to be able to do it, and
Yeah.
to get to know these other people who have the same interests. And
Mhm.
I'm trying to go to some cons this year,
Oh, yeah?
and to meet people in person,
Good.
and sort of let that be a field of growth.
Yeah.
So
There are a
there's a
lot
lot
of
of hopefuls
lot of
coming
good
up.
Tolkien events during the year. There's everything from Mythmoot to Oxenmoot if you feel like you want to go to England. There's, all these fan gatherings and yeah, plenty of
Yeah.
opportunity. That's exciting.
Yeah. So hopefully that's on the horizon.
I hope so. Well, Miranda, thank you so much for joining me here on the TTT today. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Looking forward to hearing more about all your projects down the road. So, folks, that is it for today's Fandom Friday. But come back next week to meet another of your fellow Tolkien fans and maybe even learn what niches of the community you might be interested in exploring. And if you're interested in joining me here for a future Fandom Friday, let me know by emailing Barlaman at theprancingponypodcast.com. Please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, become part of my content council, get a bonus weekly episode, and more. And then join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times as we wrap up the week with Silmarillion Saturday. If you're watching this on YouTube, you know the drill by now. Please like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps. Finally, follow at Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.